more sexual misconduct allegations against high-profile celebrities. This time, Fox Sports and two of its biggest stars are in the hot seat. A former hairstylist has filed a lawsuit accusing Skip Bayless, Joy Taylor, and others of sexual battery and harassment, even going so far as to say Bayless offered her more than $1 million for sex. We've got our hands on this lawsuit.
So old and offering up millions of... What is for one time? You're drunk.
Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
Maybe he's desperate. Who knows?
Now, as soon as this hit the headlines, we knew we had to cover it, right?
Yeah.
These sexual misconduct allegations that have rocked the sports world. Los Angeles hairstylist Nushin Faraji says that she worked with Fox Sports from 2012 to August of last year, and during that time, she claims she was not only subjected to a hostile work environment that included inappropriate comments and touching, but she says she also dealt with retaliation from the company for speaking out. So she has filed both a class action complaint, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later, and an individual complaint on multiple grounds, including things like failure to pay minimum wages, unfair, unlawful, or fraudulent business practices, hostile work environment, and sexual battery. Now, in the opening paragraph of her complaint, in this lawsuit, it reads, Ms. Faraji brings forth this action because for over a decade at Fox, she was forced to endure a misogynistic, racist, and ableist workplace where executives and talent were allowed to physically and verbally abuse workers with impunity. When Ms. Faraji and others came forward to report the wrongdoing, instead of addressing their concerns, Fox retaliated against them while the perpetrators and those who protected them were inexplicably promoted. This case thus represents yet another in a long line of cases chronicling the toxic culture at Fox, marked by bad faith promises and repeated failures to address a poisonous and entrenched patriarchy. Now, you might be saying this, saying, I'm not a sports fan. I have no idea who we're talking about. That's okay. We're going to give you a rundown about who the defendants are in this case and other major players as well. So we want to give you a quick rundown of this. We're going to first dive into what Faraji accuses them of. So Faraji is suing Fox Corporation, Fox Sports, Fox Sports 1 and 2, often known as FS1 and FS2, and Fox Sports Production. And as well, she is also suing Charlie Dixon, Skip Bayless, and Joy Taylor. First, we'll start with Charlie Dixon. Charlie Dixon is the Executive Vice President of Content for Fox Sports 1. And by the way, that's apparently Fox's flagship multi-sport national network. And he is responsible for overseeing the content and production for the network and has the authority to make decisions about employees. Skip Bayless is a renowned, albeit controversial, sports commentator who's worked in print, radio, television for decades. He's worked as a commentator with Stephen A. Smith on ESPN2's show First Take. This is before he debuted his own show with Shannon Sharp called Skip and Shannon Undisputed. This was on Fox Sports 1 in 2016. And that, by the way, is where he worked with Nushin Faraji, who was part of the styling team for the network. And by the way, in 2021, the New York Post reported that Bayless had signed a $32 million contract with Fox.
That's where you got that $1.5 million to give away.
All right, now before we go any further, I have to talk to you guys about something. This is huge for me. I cannot tell you how excited I am about this, but there is a grooming line called Brickle. I've been using it, talking about it for years. They are now our sponsor here on Sidebar. I am so freaked today. Now, Joy Taylor is also a host. She's a host for FS1, and she was the moderator for Undisputed for a few years, working closely with Bayless and Shannon. Now, she moved to another show called The Herd with Colin Cowherd on FS1 in 2018, and she's had many other hosting gigs since. Her Instagram is filled with not only reactions to some of the biggest sports news, but also glamour shots, videos where she gives advice about relationships or comments on current events. Now, Faraji says as Taylor continued to move from show to show, she had requested Faraji to continue to be her stylist. Now, the lawsuit notes that there are two other people here. There's Mark Silverman, president and COO of Fox Sports, and Eric Shanks, CEO and executive producer of Fox Sports. They could become named as defendants. They're not currently named, but they could be named as defendants as the case progresses and there's discovery in this lawsuit, because the complaint reads, on information and belief, Mr. Silverman and Mr. Shanks approved, were made privy to, or should have been privy to, all significant employment decisions and personnel-related investigations related to misconduct and or harassment by Fox Sports executives
Don't
and
know if
talent.
that's true.
Further, on information and belief,
Yeah,
Mr.
I don't
Silverman
think
and
that's
Mr.
true.
Shanks, along with Fox
Should have
legal
been aware.
team, worked hard to protect perpetrators by forcing individuals who were witnesses to or targets of misconduct and or harassment to sign non-disclosure agreements upon separation from employment.
Unless the purpose of the NDA was
So,
to was
on
unless the purpose
January-
of the NDA was to conceal criminal activity or unlawful activity, they're never going to be able to add that on there. It's like that's standard procedure for a lot of these companies. You sign an NDA when you leave the company, whether they fire you or whether you move on.
January 3rd, Faraji filed this complaint, laying out what she says had happened to her during her time at Fox Sports. And according to Faraji, she had worked part-time for Fox starting in 2012 and then went full-time in 2016. During that time, she says she befriended Joy Taylor, and this was after Taylor had moved from Miami to Los Angeles for the chance to host on Fox Sports. According to Faraji, Taylor didn't have a regular position at the time, but was available to fill in when needed. Now this is where it gets interesting, because Faraji claims that when she would go out to meet Taylor for dinner or drinks, Charlie Dixon, again, the vice president for content,
Look at him, ew.
was always around. And Faraji says that she didn't even know he was an executive with the company until later when she mentioned to Taylor that she'd seen that guy who always buys us drinks in the elevator. And that is when
What?
she said that Taylor shushed her, explained what Dixon's position was in the company. And Faraji believed, based on her interactions with these two people, that they were sleeping together. And when she warned Taylor that that might not be a great idea, that a relationship like that could be dangerous, Taylor allegedly told her not to worry about it.
Right, so you need to understand this from an analytical standpoint, right? Joy Taylor's not a victim, right? That's why she's getting sued, because she's one of the perpetrators. She already started sleeping with Charlie Dixon and knew what she wanted to get from Charlie Dixon. That's what was going on. And so it's real interesting to me that, as you'll see later, that she said that once she was done with Charlie Dixon, she would either accuse him or threaten to accuse him of unlawful sexual conduct so that she could protect herself and from, I guess, people finding out that she intentionally slept with him in order to advance her career. You see, that's usually what happens, is that she makes a conscious decision that she wants to sleep with this guy in order to get herself ahead. And the guy's like, why not? And then later on, once you're done with him, then you say, no, he touched me. That's the same thing as, the slave master's wife going to sleep with the slave, and then when they get caught, she says, nah, he raped me. That's what we're looking at right here. That's Joy Taylor.
It sucks because, this is what is perpetuated at jobs with women like this. They want to climb up the ladder, but the only way that they see that they can climb up the ladder is with sleeping with high officials.
Yeah.
And it sucks because women who are not on board with this type of activity, they get scrutinized or harassed
or propositioned because
Right.
because think about it. Not excusing the behavior of Skip and Charlie Dixon.
Right.
But
this is what they expect. Because
but listen, specifically for Faraji, where does Charlie Dixon meet Faraji? At the bar, who's best friends with the girl he's already sleeping with. In his mind, one hoe, second hoe. There's no difference. So that's why they proposition you. I'm sure that the little gossip ring is full in the FS1 sports world. That's why Shannon's like, that had nothing to do with me. I don't know what to tell you. Right? So it wouldn't be far-fetched to think that Charlie Dixon thought that Joy Taylor would have told her about their arrangement. And then maybe offered her the same thing. Now, the fact that she wasn't down with it is why we are where we are.
And by the way, apparently both Dixon and Taylor were married at the time.
Ooh-wee.
So according to the complaint, in approximately July of 2016,
Wait, Dixon and who
word
was
spread
that?
among
Joy Taylor was married at the time that she was out here sleeping with Dixon, yeah.
Fox employees about a new show that was going to be a big deal, as it would star Mr. Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. It was known that Fox was looking for a woman with significant TV experience to also star. Therefore, it came as a surprise when Fox announced that Miss Taylor, who is a bartender and radio host in Miami with very little TV experience, would be the moderator of the new show.
We know how she got it. She slept with Charlie Dixon.
Skip and Shannon Undisputed. So Faraji claims that Bayless didn't want Taylor to host the show. In fact, in the lawsuit, she claims that at a dinner between Taylor and Bayless, Taylor shows up, she's dressed, and starts acting very provocatively, potentially in a way to change his opinion about her being on the show. But eventually, Bayless agreed to approve her on the show as a favor to Dixon. Okay, when the show premiered in 2016, Taylor, according to Ms. Faraji,
she's selling pussy to get her job.
Be her hairstylist, and eventually, Bayless had asked her to do his hair as well. Not long after, in January of 2017, Faraji claims that she'd attended.
And let's give it a stack. You sure Joy Taylor didn't sleep with Skip Bayless?
Joy Taylor didn't sleep?
Yeah, you sure she didn't sleep with Skip Bayless? That allegation isn't in here, but that doesn't mean that didn't happen. The information that Faraji is giving us is that Skip approved Joy as a favor to Charlie Dixon, who was sleeping with her. It's not far-fetched to me that Charlie Dixon rents out his whore to Skip Bayless. Facts. It's not far-fetched to me that Charlie Dixon rents out his whore to Skip Bayless so that he can then agree to put her on the show. Or maybe it was just a favor. But either way, it's clear that the only reason she's on that show is because she fucking people in the office.
Birthday party for Taylor. When she goes to this birthday party, she says that Dixon was there, and he was drinking quite heavily. The complaint reads, as Miss Faraji was standing near the bar facing the crowd, Mr. Dixon approached her. He asked the bartender for a drink and then placed his arm on Miss Faraji's lower back. He asked how she was doing, if she was having fun, and if she wanted a tequila shot. Miss Faraji felt very uncomfortable by his unsolicited touching and responded, no thank you. Mr. Dixon then moved his hand lower and started rubbing her body and grabbing her
yo!
Miss Faraji was mortified, but quickly thought to fake an incoming call to escape from the situation.
Jesus.
The complaint goes on to say Miss Faraji did not know who to turn to, but as she knew Miss Taylor was sleeping with Mr. Dixon, she turned to her. Surprisingly, Miss Taylor responded to get over it and explained that she herself only had her job because of Mr. Dixon and that Miss Faraji only had her job because Miss Taylor requested her. She warned that Mr. Dixon could take both away.
And there you have it. This is why Joy's getting sued specifically. Mm-hmm. Because you were more or less you're a person of authority and power over Faraji. Mm-hmm. Joy may try to argue that she's a victim because Dixon is her supervisor or above her. Mm-hmm. You could try to argue that, but you can never argue anything about what happened between you and Faraji. She reported something to you, right. A woman, and you told her, nah, don't do that because it's going to mess up my quid pro quo where I'm trading sex for promotions. And she admits that she's doing that. Yeah. So I don't want to hear anyone say that Joy Taylor is a victim. I don't want to hear that. She is a perpetrator. And she's just as nasty and just as much of a perpetrator as Skip Bayless if he did this shit, and certainly Charlie Dixon. I don't want to hear it.
The complaint goes on. Miss Faraji was terrified and then turned to her co-worker, Anonymous, to discuss the situation. Anonymous responded that Mr. Dixon was disgusting, that the entire situation was sick, that it wasn't shocking given Fox's culture, and that Miss Faraji should remain quiet if she wanted to keep her job. As a single mother who needed the job to support her son, Miss Faraji had no choice but to remain silent.
Now that's something I don't like either, honestly, in a lot of these lawsuits, because it takes away agency from the person. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like, I understand fear of getting fired and shit like that, but to me it's almost the same thing as when someone reports an assault 20 years later. It's like, do something when they do something to you. Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, she's doing something. Because this is the something I'm talking about.
Isn't this 10 years later, though? It said in the beginning, this is 10 years after.
No, she just left like last year.
Mm-hmm. How long has she been working?
10 years. But she was... the situation is ongoing because she remained an employee there. Mm-hmm. She just left the show, I think, or Fox in 2023, I think. So it's It's in things that were happening over a long period of time. In my head, once somebody try to do some shit like that, I'm quitting, I'm suing, everybody's in trouble. I can't conceive of sitting through constant harassment because I need this job. What I don't need is the harassment. Again, I can see the logic, but at the same time, it's just strange to me that because the way I was raised and the way I've ever always come up is if someone does something to me, I'm telling. You do something to me, either I'm gonna solve the problem myself or I'm gonna tell so someone else can solve it for me. There's no way I'm about to just endure it and just fake a call. Boy's son would have got his hand slapped. This is like when Terry Crews got touched.
Yeah.
And son was like, I don't know, I couldn't do anything because of who he was and blah blah. That nigga grabbed my nuts, boy, the way I would have chokeslammed him in the middle of that room. Mm-hmm. Why'd you do that? He touched my private parts. I don't want to hear no talk back about it. You're lucky he's still alive. That's ridiculous.
So, by the way, that is one of the reasons
but then
why
again,
you might be saying,
she may not have proof.
All this happened,
like
why didn't she file a lawsuit sooner? And we'll get into more of the allegations.
Yeah, here we go.
But this is a reason. She needed the job. That's something that I will think will come up in a potential lawsuit, a potential trial, if she's being grilled under cross-examination. Okay, moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Later on in the complaint, Faraji claims that Taylor continued to use her sexuality to advance at the Fox company. And she did that by allegedly sleeping with Emmanuel Acho, a former football player turned commentator. So the lawsuit reads, quote, in approximately February 2020, Miss Taylor asked Miss Faraji to meet her for lunch in Beverly Hills. When Miss Faraji arrived, she found Miss Taylor with a man, Emmanuel Acho. Miss Faraji didn't know Mr. Acho, but could tell that the two were romantically involved.
This sounds familiar, right? This is the exact same way that she came into contact with her and Dixon, and how Faraji came to understand that she was sleeping with Dixon also.
Right.
Now, years later, we're doing almost the same thing, and now you're sleeping with Emmanuel Acho.
Right.
Unclear what Emmanuel did, as he's not named in the lawsuit.
Interesting.
A few months after meeting Mr. Acho at the lunch, Miss Faraji noticed him in the hallway while at work. Miss Faraji later asked Miss Taylor if Mr. Acho also worked at Fox. Miss Taylor confirmed and explained that she wanted Mr. Acho to eventually recommend her on the show Speak for Yourself. Miss Faraji became alarmed and warned Miss Taylor that she should probably not sleep with Mr. Dixon and Mr. Acho at the same time, as Mr. Dixon is a very powerful man that may become very angry. Miss Taylor told her not to worry about it. She explained that she was also now powerful, and once Mr. Dixon was no longer useful to her, she would follow through on her plan to tell the company that he forced himself on her. She would not allow herself to be forced out by Mr. Dixon like other women talent.
Like, this is her trying to make herself into a victim. And you can't convince me that this isn't something that happens very frequently. A lot of women make these decisions themselves and say, I'm going to sleep with this person because it's going to benefit me in one way or the other, and damn the consequences.
Manipulative, yeah.
And then, like I said earlier, they get caught. Now it's, he touched me, he did something to me. I'm a victim. I had no autonomy, but despite being over 30 years old, I have no autonomy. I couldn't make any decisions for myself. I'm a baby. I'm an infant.
I couldn't say no.
I couldn't say no. I needed it. Like, all of her, she's a little bit different because she never did nothing. Right? She stood standing there or trying to evade abuse or harassment by people is different than affirmatively taking action to have sexual contact with people for that same job. So I will agree there that she's different in terms of how long you waited to and blah 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 blah, right? Because despite being propositioned 8,000 times, she ain't never did nothing, and eventually she had enough of it and sued you niggas, as she should. But I don't want to hear any bail shot for Joy Taylor, because she's not in the same scenario. As far as I'm concerned, if you decide that you're gonna actively sleep with one of these people and they didn't hold on to you, beat you, drug you, none of that shit, and even if it was their idea and they say, you sleep with me, you get XYZ. Boy, what you need to do is get evidence, and it's not that hard. You can record conversations. You can do a lot of shit to get evidence of them propositioning you. You say no, then leave and file a lawsuit. That's what you're supposed to do. There are lawyers all over this fucking country salivating to take fucking cases like this. Salivating with Diddy in the Diddy market. Salivating, bro. What are you talking about? You'll find these niggas that'll take your case pro bono so fast. Get you some evidence instead of try to get some evidence instead of deciding that you're gonna go suck dick for money. To me, you're akin to being a prostitute. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Wow. Okay, now back to Faraji's claims of sexual battery. So Faraji says in addition to doing hair for the talent, she was also required to give haircuts to Bayless once a week. And she says that's when he started finding excuses to touch her, including giving her these lingering hugs and kisses on her cheek, where he would also press against her breasts. In approximately summer of 2017, while Miss Faraji was giving Mr. Bayless a haircut, he told her that she was voluptuous. As English is her second language, and she was not familiar with the word, Miss Faraji asked what that meant. Mr. Bayless seemed amused and told her to, quote, figure it out. Miss Faraji later asked a co-worker what the word meant and was mortified. Mr. Bayless then started being more aggressive and direct in his advances. Miss Faraji continuously declined, stating that she did not date at work as she is a single mom. And
there's a lot of stories that you hear about assault at work and what someone did to someone. And half of them stories just sound like a kindergartner made them up. This one sound real to me. I don't know, it sounds more convincing than a lot of these other lawsuits that you hear. Like, for example, when you hear the Diddy accuser. That motherfucker didn't seem, not Diddy, Jay-Z's accuser. Mm-hmm. She didn't seem very credible at all. Mm-hmm. That whole shit sounded like a lie. Yeah. But this one sounds a little bit more credible to me.
And Faraji also made further stunning allegations against Bayless, including that he offered her money for sex. You remember when I talked about his wealth? Well, the complaint reads, quote, in July of 2021, Miss Faraji developed issues with her left ovary and was advised it could be cancer. With a fourth biopsy scheduled, she explained her situation to Mr. Bayless, hoping that he would take pity on her and cease his advances. Instead, Mr. Bayless told her that he wanted to be with her. Miss Faraji panicked and began rambling that there were cameras everywhere, that she is a child, that she does not want him. Mr. Bayless then grabbed her hands, began kissing them, and offered her $1.5 million to have sex.
What?
Miss Faraji made an excuse to leave. The complaint goes on. Approximately 1 week later, Mr. Bayless made another advance at Miss Faraji. Miss Faraji responded, Skip, stop, you have a wife. Mr. Bayless responded, aren't you Muslim? Doesn't your dad have 3 to 4 wives?
What does that mean?
Miss Faraji responded that her father was dead, and when Mr. Bayless looked taken aback, she made an excuse to leave.
That sounds racist as hell, too. Doesn't you have 3 or 4 wives? Not every Muslim has multiple wives. That's number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, Muslims are real serious about the sanctity of women's purity and shit like that. Mm-hmm. And they don't like adultery at all. Mm-hmm. Like, you need to have a proper second wife if that's what you're going to do.
Because if anything...
Not cheat on your wife.
You would be stoned, too.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. They'll stone your ass.
Yep, the person who also committed the adultery.
Both are getting stoned.
Women, yep,
yeah.
both of them are getting stoned.
Skip getting stoned because he cheating. Mm-hmm. And she getting stoned for helping him cheat. Y'all getting stoned. So, like, what are you talking about, Skip? Stop this.
Now, at one point during her tenure at Fox Sports, Bayless reportedly started to think that Faraji was in a sexual relationship with his co-host Shannon Sharp.
Oh,
this is a big point in the complaint. And he allegedly confronted Faraji about it. And Faraji denied having any sort of relationship with Shannon Sharp, saying that she was just nice to all the talent, then he was just misunderstanding the situation. Mm-hmm. And Faraji says that she even used a recording device to capture one of the conversations with Skip Bayless.
Here we go.
Quote,
I need
Mr.
that.
Bayless then arrived in the makeup room for Miss Faraji to cut his hair in accordance with his regular schedule. Mr. Bayless knew that the makeup room was always recorded and clearly states, this room is bugged. During their conversation, Mr. Bayless stated that he would hate for her to lose her job, but she can't be doing a big thing with my arch rival. She responded by reiterating that being polite to Mr. Sharp is part of her job. Mr. Bayless responded, BS, 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 I am calling BS on you. Mr. Bayless then warned her that he doesn't want her to lose her job over this. Miss Faraji responded that she wasn't going to lose her job because she's a great hairdresser. Mr. Bayless responded, I have love for you, and I have for 6 years, and you hurt me, and you are ruining me.
Oh, this thing is insane.
Miss Faraji again responded that she must be polite to all talent. Mr. Bayless then implied that if he stopped requesting her, it would affect her job. Later on, the complaint reads, On December 21st, 2023,
weirdo
Mr.
shit. Y'all gotta
Bayless
stop
told Ms.
doing this.
Faraji that he still loved her and confided that Mr. Dixon was the one who had told him that Ms. Faraji was sleeping with Mr. Sharp. Mr. Bayless then again tried to have sex with Ms. Faraji. Ms. Faraji's diary entry for that day states, "I said, Skip, I'm only interested in working with you and having friendship relationship with you and nothing else."
See, one thing that y'all should understand from a legal perspective is that one way to prove that things like this happen is when there is contemporary, either contemporarily you tell someone else or contemporarily you record something. And when I say record, I mean write down that corroborates what you're saying. So diary entries are perfect because diary entries have dates. So people make up stories all the time after the fact and try to alter what happened prior, add in facts that weren't there and shit like that. But if you tell a story that said on December 21st this happened, that's why they have some of the other stuff don't have dates. This one they have in 2017, in 2016. This one has a specific date because it's corroborated by the date in her diary. Right? In her diary on the 21st, she wrote this down. And it's the same as what happened here. Unless she planned already to sue him, that's very convincing evidence.
Yeah.
He said, "You have no idea you were losing everything. I don't know what he means by that, and I hope he doesn't take me off the show. It makes me sick to my stomach, and it's really hard for me to work like this. I hope God help me because Fox is supporting people like Charlie and Skip." Now, a little side note.
Shane Sleep. That's why Shannon said this don't got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'm now seeing where the rift came from between Skip and Shannon.
Yeah.
Sounds like some bullshit was going on in the background. And Shannon said, "I'll be damned if you niggas involve me in your fuckery." Huh? That's all that this must be.
Yeah.
Here's a recording. That is very important evidence for Faraji on top of what she seems to
Very
suggest
good.
are text messages
I love evidence.
between her and Bayless. For example,
Yes,
the complaint
text,
reads
good.
on April 14th, 2022, Mr. Bayless texted Ms. Faraji, "If you're distracted tomorrow, I'll wait till Monday, but I can't keep doing this." Ms. Faraji
What?
told him that she was very confused. Mr. Bayless responded, "Trust me, I'm far more confused." And Ms. Faraji then explained over text that she is not sleeping with Mr. Sharp. Mr. Bayless did not respond.
Oh my
Now,
God, bro.
there could be a way for Skip Bayless to explain that, right? He could say perhaps this was about her work performance, that this is something along the lines of this is if she's sleeping with Shannon
They don't have
Sharp,
everything on Skip, but
then
he's gonna have to
this is
deny a lot of
be
stuff.
Problematic for her. It's going to be problematic.
Charlie Dixon is fucked.
For
So
the
is
show.
Joy Taylor.
There might be a way for him to argue against that, right? Perhaps this was something else. And I should also say that a lot of these alleged conversations, these interactions that center around sex between Faraji and Bayless, they seem to be in person. So this is a he said,
Yep.
she said situation. But if you have text messages, if you have a recording,
We have
that
diary
changes
to
the game.
corroborate, yeah?
Now, going back to Shannon Sharp for a minute, he gave a brief response to the allegations Sunday night on his YouTube show called Nightcap, basically saying this has nothing to do with him.
I don't know why everybody if you notice, everybody's posted it. They got me. In the 42 pages, it don't mention nothing about Shannon Sharp did anything. But y'all want to get clicks, so y'all mention me.
And to be clear, Faraji doesn't accuse Shannon Sharp
Of
of any
anything.
sort of misconduct.
In fact, she
Sharp-
denies that they slept together despite being accused by Skip Bayless.
And I think Emmanuel Ocho, because Joy Taylor is the one that's sleeping with Emmanuel. And the person who's suing.
That's why
is-
Emmanuel's not sued. Because he's mentioned it here because the facts involve him. And they paint a picture of Joy Taylor's behavior, and she is a defendant. So that's relevant. But
Miss Faraji is not sleeping with Emmanuel.
right,
Joy is.
Joy is. And on top of that, Emmanuel had nothing to do with whatever Skip or Charlie or anyone else was doing to Faraji. What we can see is that Emmanuel Acho was sleeping with Joy Taylor because he felt like it.
Yeah.
Right? And they are, and also I don't want to hear Joy try to put something on Emmanuel Acho either, because I don't know that he is her superior. He may have pull in the company, but I don't know that he's her superior, that he can make final or substantive changes or decisions based on that would affect her future performance or future job prospects.
Right.
That being said, I'm sure he can put a word in somebody's ear here or there. He's a former NFL player that's a commentator. They love that, right? As opposed to, like, you have guys like Skip, but he didn't play a sport. The sports world loves people like Shannon, Emmanuel Acho, who used to play, and now they're talking about it. So in that sense, he may have some pull to be able to get Joy on that new show that she wanted to be on.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily... Sleeping with someone and then doing them a favor doesn't necessarily make him guilty of anything, of any wrongdoing. Right.
Bayless, by the way, no love lost there. They have clashed multiple times on air, and Sharp eventually left the show in 2023. Now, the lawsuit also lays out multiple allegations of workplace harassment and discrimination related to Faraji's Persian heritage, her accent, her humming. According to Faraji, she hums as a coping mechanism for PTSD, and she's been doing that since she was a child, something that everyone at Fox knew. But she had been humming for all the years she worked at Fox, but says toward the end of her time there were suddenly complaints about it. Yeah. When Undisputed was canceled in August and Bayless left, Faraji was taken off the schedule. When she questioned her supervisors about it, they couldn't really give her any answer as to why. That's at least what she says.
Skip says
and several days later, Fox told her that they could only afford one hairdresser, could work on all three shows, a new morning show, Speak, and Undisputed. And Faraji's attorneys say in the complaint, Fox systematically reduced her work schedule and ultimately terminated her employment by removing
so she didn't even... Yeah, y'all niggas is cooked, bro. Y'all niggas is cooked. She didn't even wake up and say, I'm gonna sue you niggas. You fired her. You fired her. What's wrong with you? These niggas are crazy, bro. These niggas is insane. If I was your counsel, I'd say, let that girl work here for the rest of her life. Are you stupid? And give her a raise. The fuck is wrong with you? This is insane. No one talked to the legal department? I'd have been in there, raised my hand. Hey, no, can't do this. Don't. We're gonna take her. No, don't take her off nothing, bro. What are y'all doing? You are setting up yourselves to get sued. What the fuck? This is that we think we can do whatever we want shit. That's what this is. Like, that's insane to me. Because any lawyer worth his salt who had the information be like, don't do this, bro. You're going to get sued. She's been complaining for 10 years. You're going to get sued. And for a lot. A decade of... Oh, shit.
Using fabricated business necessities as a pretext. At this point, Ms. Faraji seeks justice. She knows that Mr. Dixon used his position of power to coerce women into having sex with him and used it as a justification to grope Ms. Faraji. She knows that Mr. Dixon did not immediately fire her after Ms. Taylor and Ms. Faraji had a falling out, only to appease Mr. Bayless by providing him with a plaything.
So it sounds to me like Joy Taylor may have even said, I want her gone. And she only was kept because the Skip Bayless wanted to continue harassing her. Yeah. Right? Because now Joy Taylor's not speaking up for her no more after they have a falling out, after she don't want to engage in or help you cover up your fuckery.
Right.
Despite Ms. Faraji being an excellent hairdresser and continuously being requested by talent, she was shrunken down to how much she could appease Mr. Bayless, and once Mr. Bayless was gone, so was her job.
Yeah,
now, as I mentioned earlier, Faraji is filing both her own individual complaint and she's wanting to bring a class action lawsuit against Fox on behalf of, quote, all non-exempt hourly individuals who worked for Fox in California during the period commencing 4 years prior to filing of this complaint. Now, a few things I'll just mention.
Listen, that's super interesting. And I tell you what now, I don't want to hear any bail shot for Joy Taylor. As far as I'm concerned, she's guilty as sin. What you think?
It's just sad that this is what occurs in the job offices, and women just promote it themselves as if they're being harassed, but they're the ones that are initiating this just so they can get a raise, just so they can get a position.
And then you make it bad for women who don't want to engage in that, and these weirdos all assuming that all the women want to engage in that. And so now, this woman who don't want to do none of this shit, because Joy Taylor's a fucking thought, she has to sit through all this bullshit, worried about losing her job, this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, she lost her job.
Right, and then ultimately did lose her job. Like, that's insane to me, son. Miss me with the bullshit. All you Joy Taylor defenders, fall in the ditch.